What kind of terrifying case is it? It nearly killed the forensic expert. What kind of convoluted and bizarre case is this? It even made the police struggle to track down the murderer for 11 years. On a thunderstorm night, the couple artists were brutally murdered in their studio. The man was stabbed 16 times, and the woman was stabbed 42 times. A total of 590,000. The strange thing is, the murderer placed red candles while committing the crime. So what about the candles on the ground? It has left our major crimes unit quite puzzled. This case is terrifying, bizarre, strange, full of twists, and convoluted. It far exceeds all suspense movies. Suspects keep appearing only to be successively ruled out. But every time the police get close to the true murderer, they narrowly miss the true murderer each time. Even more bizarre, just as the truth is about to come to light, the true murderer mysteriously died the night before the arrest. Can you handle this? Will this become yet another unsolved case? Until 11 years later, following my Mai Tai to investigate the case. Everyone is a suspect. March 4, 2000. That day at 4 p.m. The Galanjiu police station in Xiamen, Fujian received a report of a case. The reporter said something major happened at their neighbor's house. As for how serious, he said you would find out when you arrive. Sure enough, the situation was indeed very serious. The officers dispatched were so scared they lost their wits. Even the forensic experts who were used to various crime scenes felt a shudder and had difficulty breathing. The male victim was lying at the foot of the bed in a strange kneeling position. The female victim was even more bizarre, lying face down on the inner side of the bed with her head facing north and feet facing south. Both individuals were bound with yellow tape on their hands, feet, mouth, and neck. They were likely unable to resist at the time of the attack. The man had been stabbed 16 times, and the woman 42 times. A total of 59 stabs. The width of the wound is approximately 2.3 centimeters. The weapon used in the crime is likely a double-edged stabbing weapon with a blade width of 2.3 centimeters. In the case where the victim lost the ability to resist, it wouldn't be difficult for the murderer to kill with a single stab. Why stab 59 times in a row? What's even more bizarre is, both individuals were covered with a quilt. The murderer bound the victims, covered them with a quilt, and then attacked. Does the murderer's action have any special significance? The scene is a two-bedroom apartment. The north side is the bedroom, the middle is the living room, and the south side is the studio. At the scene, there were obvious signs of disturbance in the drawers and wardrobe. The password box was slashed open, and all items inside disappeared. It is currently impossible to determine what was originally inside. Because the doors and windows are intact, the murderer likely entered the house peacefully. The murderer is either an acquaintance or a stranger. Either they knocked down the door or tricked their way in. No valuable fingerprints were extracted from the scene. This indicates that the murderer most likely wore gloves and premeditated the crime. The male victim's name was Lu Cheng, and he was from Jiangsu. He came to Galanjiu a few years ago to open a studio. He made a living by selling paintings and teaching art. He is relatively well known in Galanjiu. The female victim is Lu Cheng's girlfriend, named Feng Yan. The two had no bad habits in their daily lives. Their business was doing quite well. Why did the murderer want to commit the crime? The scene exuded an eerie atmosphere everywhere. One is that at the scene, apart from the strong smell of blood, there was also another pungent smell, similar to turpentine. Turpentine is an industrial raw material with a wide range of uses. It is also an important additive for thinning oil paints in oil painting. But you'll never guess, behind this seemingly ordinary material lies a terrifying earth-shattering secret. Lu Cheng is a painter. It's not surprising that there is a smell of turpentine at the scene. However, the smell of turpentine at the scene is quite strange. As for where the problem lies, it is difficult to determine at the moment. Secondly, at the scene, besides two empty paint thinner bottles, there are also a few cigarette butts and food packaging bags. There are also two unburned candles on the ground. These are incongruous with the scene's environment. This left the investigation team baffled and at a loss. Could it be the unique vibe of this artistic couple? Due to the lack of clues at the scene, the investigators had to collect everything from the scene as thoroughly as possible. Among the numerous footprints left at the scene, there are two types of suspicious shoe prints. One of the shoe prints is on the inside of the sole. There is a new sports shoe print. The other one features a circular. The other one is a ring-shaped print. There are two distinct types of shoe prints. There are two types of shoe prints. There is a high possibility that these two shoe prints belong to the murderer. Based on the shoe prints, it can be inferred. The number of perpetrators is likely to be more than two. A special task force was immediately formed. The key point right now is to determine the time of the crime. Based on the rigor mortis level, it can be inferred. The time of death for both individuals was around 40 hours. A neighbor who looked remarkably like Yi Jihuan recalled. Around 9 p.m. on March 2nd, he had heard the female victim crying. It had been raining heavily at that time. Additionally, the two often argued. He didn't hear clearly and didn't pay much attention. Consequently, the time of the incident was determined to be around 9 p.m. that evening. Judging by the cut suitcase and signs of rummaging at the scene, the victim's savings book and ID card were missing. The characteristics of the murderer in the robbery and murder are very obvious. But soon the problem arose. Feng Yan was stabbed 42 times. Compared to Lu Cheng, who was stabbed 16 times, she was stabbed 27 more times. This gives one a feeling. The murderer was clearly targeting Feng Yan. Could it be a revenge killing? The murderer fabricated a robbery and murder scene after the crime. Or maybe it was just a case of killing the victim and then casually taking their belongings. The task force immediately began investigating the social circles of the two victims. However, the result was unexpected. The two seemed to have no enemies. Feng Yan had no emotional entanglements either. The investigation reached a stalemate. After several days, the case was at a standstill. The police were under immense pressure. Investigators looked at the scene reports and photos. They just couldn't understand. Why, 2 days after the incident, there was also a strong, pungent smell of turpentine at the scene. Why were there two mismatched candles at the scene? Why did the murderer cover it with a blanket and then stab wildly? Just when the case was at a standstill, an important clue has emerged. They had an especially fierce argument that time. The female student with the surname Zhu was in the art studio. A lot of things were smashed. Teacher Lu was very angry and later kicked her out. This female student with the surname Zhu said as she left that this matter was not over. She insisted on calling someone to smash up the art studio. She also wanted to chop off Teacher Lu's hand, prevent him from painting in the future. This female student is named Zhu Dandan. She once followed Lu Cheng to learn painting with her boyfriend Yi Dehuang. Later, Yi Dehuang was chased away by Lu Cheng for lacking talent. Before leaving, it seems he had an argument with Lu Cheng over the tuition refund. That female student with the surname Zhu. She also didn't have a good relationship with Teacher Lu's girlfriend. Teacher Lu's girlfriend kept saying that Zhu Dandan was worthless. Just like her boyfriend. Neither of them could do anything right. Soon after, Zhu Dandan also left the studio due to the humiliation from Feng Yan. Before leaving, she even threatened to chop off Lu Cheng's hand, so that he could never paint again. The special investigation team immediately identified Zhu Dandan as a key suspect. As expected, the end for art students is very clear. Zhu Dandan is currently working at a nightclub. And her current boyfriend Wang Qinghai is also a suspect the police are investigating. This is a thug in society. The leader of the thugs is still. I've heard this person is quite vicious. Zhu Dandan and her boyfriend have the capability to commit the crime with multiple people. Soon, Zhu Dandan and her gang of misfits were quickly captured. Zhu Dandan admitted to having deep conflicts with the two victims. Wang Qinghai also confessed he was planning to take revenge on the two. But as the interrogation progressed, everyone in the special investigation team felt a chill. Zhu Dandan and her boyfriend don't have the time to commit the crime at all. On the night of March 2nd, both individuals have strong alibis. After re-evaluating the case, the special investigation team believes, although Zhu Dandan's suspicion can temporarily be ruled out, but could her ex-boyfriend Yi Dehuang still be a suspect? Where is Yi Dehuang now? However, Zhu Dandan said, she and Yi Dehuang broke up a long time ago. Yi Dehuang has also long since left Xiamen. The special investigation team felt disheartened again. However, then Zhu Dandan mentioned something. It made the special investigation team feel a surge of adrenaline. A few months ago, a classmate who studied painting with them, Ling Qinggang, came to Xiamen on behalf of Yi Dehuang to see him. Ling Qinggang said they were currently up to something big in Fuzhou. He even stated that they would deal with Lu Qing sooner or later. Zhu asked him how they were planning to do it. The one with the surname Ling said to tie him up, force him to give the password and take his bankbook. Then Zhu said again, "Won't he find out? The teacher knows you too, what will you do?" At that time, this Ling said, "Why not blow up the gas canister after committing the crime?" Although this might just have been a joke in their conversation, the mention of blowing up the gas canister immediately made the investigators sharply think of the smell of turpentine and the candles at the scene. The Major Crimes Unit believes this is a very important clue. Ling Qingang and Yi Dehuang quickly came into focus. However, by the time the Major Crimes Unit arrived in Fuzhou, the two had already disappeared without a trace. On the table in the rental house, there was only a pile of business cards. Investigators believe the two must have had contact with the people on the business cards. According to Su, a sales representative from a water delivery company on the business card, he found this job on 58, which is known for many major companies. Not long ago, he had sent a business card to Yi Dehuang. At the same time, Su provided the police with a fixed phone number to contact Yi Dehuang. This was a public phone located near the Fuzhou train station. The Major Crimes Unit immediately took the photos of Yi and Ling to conduct a thorough search here. Suddenly, a landlord reported that Yi and Ling had previously rented his house with other non-mainstream youths. However, they had already moved out. On the table in the rental house, there were a syringe and tin foil. This group should be just chatting idly. Could it be that a drug addict, desperate for money, committed murder and robbery? Soon after, a remark from the local police officer who came to assist made the task force's blood boil. He came to this room in early March. They checked for the temporary residence permit in this room on the 4th floor. After seeing some of the people inside, he felt something was off. There were two individuals that left a particularly strong impression on him. One of them had a bandage on his face. The other seemed to have an injury on his hand. He also had a bandage on it. He found it strange and even asked them at the time. He asked, "What's going on with you?" They replied that it was from falling off a bicycle. At that time, he even fined them, because they hadn't obtained a temporary residence permit. But then the Major Crimes Unit spirit sank again. He firmly insisted it was on March 2nd, because he went back to school that day, just returned from school. Upon hearing it was March 2nd, our hearts immediately grew cold. March 2nd is a very sensitive time. March 2nd is exactly when our case, the time of occurrence. According to this police officer, he came in the evening of March 2nd. They came to investigate around 6 or 7 o'clock. The time of the incident was around 9 p.m. on March 2nd. If the local police did indeed enter the house for investigation at around 6 or 7 p.m. on the night of the incident, then the injuries of this group must not have been inflicted at the time of the crime. Furthermore, from Fuzhou to the crime scene, it requires a 3.5-hour drive followed by a ferry ride, and finally a 20-minute walk to arrive. So even if these people reached the scene, it would have to be after 11 p.m. These individuals had absolutely no time to commit the crime. They don't have the body duplication technique. It's impossible for him. He doesn't have the body duplication technique. The investigation has once again returned to square one. All leads have been completely cut off. If no new clues emerge, this case is likely to become an unsolved case. This leaves the Major Crimes Unit feeling unsatisfied. Yi Dehuang and their recent actions and words are too suspicious. However, there was no evidence regarding the time of the crime. The task force thought for a moment. Could the police have remembered the time incorrectly? Didn't the police issue a fine? The receipt for the fine must have recorded the time. The task force decided to ask the local police to verify it once more. He said, "Officer Fan, I'm sorry, I remembered it wrong. Hurry up and come over." When I came over, I saw that on the fine ticket. The noted time is March 3rd. Upon hearing this, our mood improved greatly. This March 3rd is different from March 2nd. It's completely two different concepts. Let's deduce based on March 3rd. It is completely plausible. The case took a turn. The task force felt a warmth again. Yi and Ling became key suspects again. However, at this time, the task force still had no direct evidence. So, the task force conducted a thorough investigation of the rental properties. Someone actually found a shoe print at the corner outside the rental property. I want to come today. I really find it unbelievable. That shoe print is very blurry. I don't even know him. How can we find this shoe print? How can we see it clearly or at all? And when the police lifted the bed board of the rental room, the special investigation team was shocked. Another shoe print was found on the floor. After comparison, the two shoe prints cannot be said to match the crime scene exactly. They are simply identical. With the cooperation of the Fuzhou police, several people who had lived in the rental were found. Their criminal suspicions were ruled out one by one. However, they also reported, on March 2, 2000, Yi Dehuang, Ling Qinggong, and Zhang Qingyun had once traveled together to Xiamen. Yi Dehuang's hand was injured on the way back. Ling Qinggong had injuries on his face. And after the police checked the temporary residence permit, the three brothers both returned home. Upon investigation, Yi, Ling, and Zhang are all from the same village in Zhouning, Fujian. The task force immediately headed to the hometowns of the three individuals to carry out the arrests. At this moment, everyone in the task force was filled with excitement. But when they arrived in Zhouning, they found it was all for nothing. Their hearts sank once again. Just before the task force entered the village, not only had Yi, Ling, and Zhang disappeared, Yi Dehuang's father, Yi Wen, and Ling Qinggong's father, Ling Debiao, had also vanished. It all started that afternoon when we entered. They could not be found. They were unreachable and had gone missing. We thought, this is bad, this is really bad. This was a serious matter. The Fujian Provincial Public Security Department immediately listed Yi, Ling, and Zhang as the top 10 key suspects to be pursued. After more than 10 days of surveillance in Zhouning, they finally learned that Yi Dehuang was hiding on a nearby mountain. But by the time they arrived, there was not a soul in the dilapidated house. Only a few torn clothes and some leftover food remained. This was the closest the Major Crimes Unit had been to catching the murderer. They almost managed to catch him and learn the truth. At this moment, the Major Crimes Unit did not anticipate, after this narrow miss, they would face a long and arduous pursuit. From then on, the task force searched all the places where the suspect might be hiding. However, the three seemed to have vanished without a trace. Until 2002, 2 years after the incident, the task force learned that Zhang Qingyun suddenly returned home and committed suicide out of fear of the crime. He told me, "Sister, I killed someone outside. These 2 years were tough, I was hiding everywhere." I told him, "You're still young, brother. Murder is a very serious matter. You should turn yourself in." He replied, "Sister, okay, I'll think about it." We talked late into the night, and then he went back to his room to rest. The next morning, I knocked on his door. I found that he had committed suicide inside. Although Zhang Qingyun told his sister that he had killed someone, he still did not clearly explain the details of the crime. The Major Crimes Unit's doubts after more than 2 years still remain unanswered. Why did the three of them commit murder? Was it merely for revenge or for money? What is the significance of the strong smell of turpentine and the candles on the floor? Would Yi Ling and the other person commit suicide out of fear of crime to avoid affecting their family's civil service exam? The truth of the case seems close at hand yet far away. A year later, the Major Crimes Unit suddenly learned that Yi Dehuang's father, Yi Wen, was registering a newborn. Could this be the big number gone bad while practicing the small one? But Yi is already over 60 years old, which is obviously impossible. And Yi Dehuang is the only child in the family. This newborn can only be Yi Dehuang's child. The special investigation team immediately set up surveillance on Yi. They ultimately confirmed that Yi Dehuang was hiding in Ningda, Fujian. The arrest process was completely uneventful. Instead, it was unusually peaceful. Yi Dehuang openly admitted to collaborating with Ling and Zhang in the crime. On the night of the incident, the three of them arrived in Xiamen. They entered the premises under the pretext of borrowing money. During the fight, all three sustained injuries. After stealing 3,000 yuan in cash, the three chose to eliminate the witnesses. Due to it being their first murder, they lacked experience. After covering themselves with a blanket, they stabbed frantically. They had envisioned pouring turpentine on the ground and lighting candles. Once the candle burns to the ground, it will ignite the turpentine and destroy the scene. Perhaps it was fate, the candles eventually went out. Although the case had become clear, Yi Dehuang also got his share of peanuts. However, Ling Qinggong's escape still left the task force feeling like a lump in their throats. Ling Qinggong's appearance and demeanor deeply etched in the detectives' minds. He even appeared in their dreams. Ling Qingying was like a beam of moonlight, leaving the detectives unable to let go for a long time. Over the past 11 years, the task force has visited Ling Qingying's hometown 11 times, each time lasting 10 days to half a month, yet still nothing was found. In 2011, a nationwide crackdown was launched. The capture of Ling Qingying was once again brought to the agenda. The Major Crimes Unit believed that after 11 years, Ling Qingying was likely to have lowered his guard. He might even be in contact with his family. Several detectives went to regions such as Zhejiang and Shanghai to monitor Ling Qingying's family. Finally, Ling Qingying made an appearance. News came from Zhejiang. Ling Qingying's brother had previously revealed to outsiders that their father and brother opened a building materials store in Dongguan. He is preparing to borrow money to buy a sandblasting machine. No wonder the father and son went missing together back then. It turns out they got lost in the Dongguan-style services. The Major Crimes Unit immediately rushed to Dongguan. But once they entered the building materials market, they were confused again. Which shop could possibly belong to this father and son? To avoid repeating the mistakes and leaking information for another 11 years, without knowing the exact hiding place of the suspects, the investigators could only conduct a discreet investigation. Team leader Fan reprioritized the shops within the market. He also requested the two undercover investigators to go in one last time. They must see the owner this time. But 11 years have passed, and appearances have changed. The investigators still couldn't determine who Ling Qingying was. Team leader Fan, furious and embarrassed, he angrily scolded the investigators, saying if they couldn't remember, they should tattoo it on. They must recall the characteristics of everyone. He was just venting his anger at us. I kept asking repeatedly, what exactly are the characteristics and so on. At that moment, I suddenly remembered a shop. A shop run by a father and son. The son had a deep scar on the corner of his mouth. There was a very heavy scar. After he mentioned this, I really felt at that moment, it was like this blood suddenly rushed to my head. Yi Dehuang had previously admitted that during the crime, Ling Qingying's face was slashed, leaving a scar. Captain Fan immediately decided to carry out the arrest. When I approached him, he turned to face me. When I saw him, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. His appearance was exactly what I had been. In the appearance of a person who is chasing like this. My first reaction was to pat his shoulder with my left hand. I shook his hand with my right hand. I said one thing. Xiaoling, it's been 11 years, you have been lazy for 11 years. When Ling heard me say this, he was taken aback for a moment. Then he reacted by laughing a bit. I can tell that this smile is a bitter smile. It quickly flickered away. Then he said something to me. You were bound to come eventually. The subsequent arrest process was unexpected. Ling Qingying made no resistance at all. He didn't even try to disguise himself or argue. His only request in the end was to see his child. I had broken down several times before making a run for it. At that time, I said to put the knife to my throat. I thought about stabbing down with one blow. Yet I still lacked the courage. Several times while on the run, I thought. When they caught them. When they arrested me at that time. I felt a sense of relief inside. Ling Qingying said. After the crime, he wandered restlessly, unable to find peace. Later, his father took him and hid him deep in the mountains. Because his father was a lumberjack. He stayed there for a full 4 years. 4 years of experience logging in the mountains. Ling Qingying had nightmares almost every day. After running for over 10 years, I also feel exhausted. Inside, I also feel tired. So, what are you saying? If I were over there, even though I was working there, all day long, my heart would still be filled with anxiety. I couldn't sleep soundly either. It felt like there was a lot of psychological pressure. In 2004, Ling Qingying fled to Dongguan to work. Later, he even opened his own processing shop. However, he could only hide in the shop every day, afraid to go out. So, money is valuable, but love is worth more. If it's for freedom, both can be cast aside. At this point, the truth of the case was revealed. On October 16, 2012, Ling Qingying was sentenced to death with a 2-year reprieve.